Welcome to Crypt of Fright. I'm Luna, your guide through the shadows where horror films, TV, comics, and video games all come out to play. Every week, we dig into the stories that shape the genre. The monsters who haunt it. And the creators who keep horror alive. Welcome to the Crypt.
Love that opening. It's so good.
Oh, thank you so much. I had my good buddy CJ help me with the introduction song. So huge shout out to him. He produces.
Song slaps.
Oh yeah, he does a lot of quick plug. He does a lot of producing and composing of music, and I give him huge props. I told him what I wanted, what kind of sound I wanted, and he just delivered. So he is an amazing dude. And I'll post in the comments later. I'll post like his link so you can check it out if you need any producing or any needs of that.
Okay.
So happy Sunday. We made it. Happy Halloween. It's officially Halloween season. There's no other holidays other than like I think a Labor Day, Memorial Day or something. And then Halloween. So I'm joined I'm joined today by Adam Van Dyke, a talented director of In the Valley, Paracosm, and the Monster of the Desert.
Mm-hmm.
Adam's specialty is he's known for his dark storytelling with comedic undertones. And we have some great concepts to explore with him today. Welcome, Adam. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to talk and shoot the shit and talk spooky stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. So Adam, kind of before we get started into what you're directing and everything that you're working on currently, let's go back to the beginning.
Okay.
So what's your first introduction that you had with horror?
Oh, God. I wasn't allowed to watch R-rated movies as a kid, so I used to sit in Blockbuster and read the back of the VHSs for hours until I could find one that was like PG-13 or something that was like my parents were like, yeah, you can rent it. The two movies that inspired me the most, where I was like, I have to do this, is Darkness Falls, was the Tooth Fairy movie, and then Saw. The very first time I saw, I was like, oh my God, movies can have a twist. I'm in like kindergarten watching this movie. I'm like, phew. So everything changed forever after those two movies.
That's awesome. I didn't start watching horror films until my adolescence, just because I grew up in a very Catholic household, and I wasn't allowed, the whole Mexican. We have to live by these rules. You can't watch anything. So I pretty much had PBS and maybe a few other, maybe like Nickelodeon, stuff like that, but I didn't have a very colorful upbringing in horror.
Okay.
But now, as I, in school, in high school, people would be like, "Oh, let's watch this. Let's do this." So then you kind of had that.
Yeah, you became a maniac.
Kind of, yeah. So who are your favorite horror creators, Adam?
James Wan is kind of because of Saw. I mean, has kept me going and always inspired. Later in life, teenage years, I kind of fell into this obsession with Italian horror. So I've always been obsessed with the color palettes and like the avant-garde and the kind of the chaotic nature of like Argento and Fulci. And arguably those are probably, that whole genre and those guys are the ones that I probably go to the most when I want a palette cleanse and a refresh of like why I'm doing this.
Yeah, I think that's pretty valid. You kind of go back to the basics to kind of remember where you want to go as an artist.
Yeah, it's true.
Was there a specific moment when you realized horror wasn't just something that you enjoyed watching, but something that you wanted to create?
You know what? I wanted to direct when I was a theater kid, but I knew in first grade that I wanted to be a director. It was like always, and it was always horror, and I've always been so lucky to have been so obsessed with it. I mean, I used to have a video camera, and we had a Chucky doll growing up, and we would make Chucky found footage movies. So it was always ingrained that this is what I wanted to do, and I've been obsessed with it um ever since. But like, why horror? I don't know. I think I come from a family of artists. I I've always been attracted to darker energies, darker auras, darker imagery, and I always was just so perplexed and so pulled by like the beauty and darkness. And having like trauma background and growing up, I always found so much healing in these dark places because they always kind of felt safe and relatively absurd. Where I feel like anything was just like anything was possible in the genre, and that just felt right. That like anything I was feeling at any point in my life just lined up with horror. If I was crazy, there's a crazy movie. If I felt sad, there's a sad horror movie. I don't know, but horror just has always been this healing place where I've found, yeah, joy in dark places.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of, if you've ever been familiar with Dia de los Muertos.
Of course.
So that's huge in Mexican culture, and you embrace the darkness,
Mhm.
and it's a big celebration. It's not that you're happy about somebody dying, it's more like we celebrate life and death and the beauty that comes from just life in general, and the artistry and just everything. So it's really beautiful. And I think for me personally, growing up with that, you
Yeah,
kind of learn to love the a little bit more macabre,
exactly.
if you say. Um, so what was the specific thought? Getting into a little bit of In the Valley, by the way, it was such a fantastic film, and I really loved watching it.
You.
What was a specific thought or initial image that sparked the concept of In the Valley?
So I In the Valley was my, I think, eighth short film. It's my biggest one, and I kind of took a pause from filmmaking for a minute because I was just kind of like I was just making so much so fast, and I was kind of getting burnt out, and I wanted to just marinate for a minute. So I had this place in Joshua Tree, this little tiny house that kind of became my like escape from LA. And looking at, I mean, it was just Joshua Tree is beautiful because it's kind of off grid, and yeah, it's crowded, but the stars and the whole reason why you go out there and the retro nostalgia, everything that lines up with me, was so inspiring. And I just was always writing, but I could never come up with what I wanted to tell next. But I knew I wanted it to be queer. And I remember being in Joshua Tree feeling. I wrote this essay for Horror Press that came out a couple weeks ago as to why In the Valley kind of came about. And it was because I've always felt this lingering shadow upon me. I had never experienced like overt homophobia or anything before, but I just always felt this like inherent vigilance, this like shadow attached to me to always like watch my back or to just be aware. So when I went to the middle of nowhere, it just was heightened, and it made me kind of scared that I was suddenly so aware of my sexuality and my person, and it kind of made me it kind of broke my soul that there was just like all this history. So I kind of just was like, I'm really lucky to be out here and be open and have like the thing. But I was just it kind of just would always circle back that I was like, I got to do this now. I'm get Airbnbs and bring friends out here and be queer and have a blast. But that hasn't like always been the case, and it's just always kind of stuck with me. So I think what got me to the story, on top of like that emotional bandwidth of like my queer identity and like the fear behind it, was so gay. But Gaga's Chromatica album had come out, and it's the whole idea is like going into trauma, falling into this like wonderland, and coming back out hopefully for the better. So I just played that album like front to back, front to back, front to back. And I think the image that came to mind was, I was like, how cool would it be if an abduction film wasn't so like on the nose, if I just had a star, like an image explode into a disco ball. And that's kind of where the idea came from, which is like the very beginning of the movie. And then I've always went on to write about a black orchid, because I just love orchids. It's so hard to take care of. And I was like, how weird would it be to have an orchid out in the desert? How could I make that make sense? And then suddenly, in 1 hour, I came up with the story, and it just like it just came out, and I was like, this is it. This is what I have to do.
Awesome. Sorry, I was making note of another question that kind of
Good.
sprung up. Um, did you ever feel at the very beginning when our protagonist walks into this bar, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, they kind of question his queerness of like, you don't belong here. Like, are you okay with gay people? Have you ever felt that way? Like your queerness was questioned, like maybe you're not gay
Yeah,
enough?
it's like it's not gay enough. It's also kind of like the fear of going into a new space so vulnerable that maybe feels like a stepping stone, or even in non-queer spaces when you step in, it just like sometimes you get an eye look or something, and you know it's textbook,
Mhm.
people's mind, but like you recognize it in a heartbeat, even though like nothing's said, and it does sting a little bit, and it has like
Mhm.
this. It honestly has like a scary kind of creepy sensation that, like, how do I recognize what this feeling is? Like, how do I have already inherently known what this feels like?
Mhm.
So in the film, and it's kind of like a body switch thing where, like, they're looking at the killer, not so much the guy that has walked in, but it's yeah, I think part of it is like my queerness and my everything when I started going into like the bars as a kid, and like it was scary. It was, do I feel right here? This should be home, and eventually became home. But there is this buildup of fear of, this is kind of where you start over and find yourself for the first time, and that's a terrifying, exhilarating, but scary feeling.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Definitely. What I mostly got from that scene personally was I'm pansexual.
Hmm.
So when I am, dating a man, and if I go to a gay bar with my boyfriend, whatever, it's like, guys, don't worry. I'm definitely in the community. I'm not here to cause problems, I'm totally safe. It's just kind of that weird sensation of like, I'm a good guy, I promise,
Yeah.
and having people not fear you, because honestly, the community gets so much hate, and they always have a guard up now. Everybody's so shielded, like, who are you? You
Yeah, I
know?
would even say something. I mean, as better as we are now, as we have been in the past, it's just with social media and everything. Like, it's still heightened. Like, it's heightened as hell.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So it's I have noticed that shift to not necessarily being mean, but trying to protect yourself, and figuring out, who are you? Do gay people make you uncomfortable? Like, that's a question that you have to ask nowadays, and it's so sad just because of the state of the world.
Mhm.
You do have to be safe, and that seed really made me sad though, because it's like, yeah, that's a question that you have to ask, and it just made
Yeah,
me
because
sad.
it's a sad thing, because it's like it's a protective question, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
It can be so direct, is so it comes from a place of vulnerability and fear and protection for the people around you, and it should catch you off guard, because the reality is like that statement is very, very accurate.
It is. And it just kind of it's like a putting a mirror in front of you and going, "Oh, that's where the reality, where things as a society are." So,
Yeah,
yeah.
and also shout out, that was my friend Aiden Zane from RuPaul's Drag Race, and I was so excited for them to do that, like, little bit of the bartender, and I was
Oh,
the
awesome.
line, I want you to like be kind of a bitch about it, and mean it, and
Yeah.
they ate it up.
Yeah, no, it was really good. I was like, "Oh." I was like, if I walked into a bar and I was questioned about my, uh, queerness, I would be like, "Well,
Exactly.
sorry."
If you weren't queer, just like the idea of getting the question is still like, oh, okay, like, and now I
Yeah.
know that the walls are up.
Yeah, it's like, "Ooh,
Yeah.
I'm safe, I promise." Oh, we have Adam is the kindest, most amazing creative out there. Yeah,
Aw.
definitely. We're exploring all the fun stuff that he's done, and amazing in the valley. So why did you I noticed that right away, your use of black orchids. Why did you use that to represent the cowboy character?
Yeah. So a couple reasons. One, I had heard a song called Black Orchid, this by this artist named Hannah, very like house EDM that I really liked when I was kind of going down this like chromatica spiral.
Yeah.
And I I grew up in nature. I grew up with flowers. I'm a flower boy. Like I like probably have a bigger flower collection than I do horror movies, which says a lot. Um, and I have a relatively good green thumb, but I cannot for the life of me keep an orchid alive. Like I do not understand it, and like that's not why I chose the orchid, but that's always stuck with me. But because of how stunning I find orchids are and like the variations of them, and I've always just been so blown away with how alien they look because they truly do. I mean, the way they grow, the way they hang, it just feels alien. And I also just felt like the purpose of the story was that it set up like a love story and then it swaps into like gay panic and goes into like historical violence and
Mhm.
then kind of brings it back, which is just like a this whole thing was like an abduction that you're lucky to be alive, so remember these people that have come before, whatever. And that's kind of like the trope of it. And I was like, well, there's some the idea that this bar can exist and has existed, and these stories exist of safe spaces, out in the middle of nowhere, that you can find someone like Richard, the cowboy, that is just a gem of a human that just wants love and is alone and isolated and just catches sees somebody new and instantly gets excited because he just wants a new experience. And I was like, to see someone who just wants it, who's just in it for love and just wants to fall in love so badly and talk about stars and all that. And Orchid just made sense. It's like it's having something so rare and so beautiful growing in something that shouldn't allow it to grow, like the desert sand. And the fact that this beautiful queer human existed someplace that was maybe feral or too desolate or too rough or wasn't where they belonged to then get plucked from existence. I felt like just like the imagery of something so beautiful and so powerful lined up with if they were something so rare and so beautiful to get removed so fast. I thought that it just made sense to go with something like that. And then I painted it black because I was like, black would be gnarly.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of black anything. There's tulips. Have you ever seen black tulips?
uh,
Beautiful.
Gorgeous.
Black lilies, anything.
All of it.
I saw a video of Kat Von D's garden and she had all these black flowers. I'm like,
Living
goals.
the life that I wanted.
Exactly. Oh, that is so awesome. So every director typically has a signature. If you looked at John Carpenter, you can tell it's a John Carpenter. Whether we're talking about any director, they have a thing.
Yeah.
So if someone were to watch In the Valley and knowing your name, what visual or thematic cues do you hope would tip them that it's your work?
Oh, it's funny. I think that's actually pretty easy. I mean, all my friends and filmmakers and that have seen my work throughout the last 8, 9, 10 years, I have always been honed in on my like retro, colorful nostalgia. I
Oh
am
yeah.
any of my projects start, it's my movie because it is so fucking colorful. I don't shy away from color, and I'm always leaning into the 70s, 80s realm, no matter how modern the film is. And that's just in my core. My house feels like Courage the Cowardly Dog. Like, I have color after color after color. And that's just, I would say the biggest thing is that, and that none of my stories, at least up until this point, um, when a movie is done of mine, it's mine because I don't allow my movies to be exceptionally linear. I like to do a little bit of openness and like require a little bit of work from the viewer to like In the Valley takes, it makes a lot of sense, but it's intended to be rewatched where you pick up new clues and you're like, oh, I kind of get it because the queer experience isn't linear. Um,
Mhm.
so I always make movies that are a little bit more open-ended, a little bit more avant-garde, and all of my films, I think every one of them at their core is all about trauma and love. Every one of my movies is about the loss of love or love to a certain degree and like what that has shaped in my mind as a creative and what love to me looks like in a horror film. So all my films center around love to a certain degree.
Yeah, love is one of the greatest things you can give and get and receive. So I definitely understand that. And I will say the one scene where our protagonist and the cowboy character,
Mhm.
sorry, I'm not sure what
Richard.
Richard, yes, thank you. When they're both walking, it's like, "Oh, you can go to my place, yeah?" So they're walking away and they're going into the fog and the colors, and I was like, "Wow, that is visually so stunning." I had to take a moment to just appreciate that scene. So I could definitely tell that you love to use the color and the
Oh,
fog, and it was just so beautiful.
if I can't do it, if it doesn't have color, I'm just like, what am I doing here? Like, let's add a fucking blue light in here. Somebody please add some color.
No, yeah, I did appreciate the way it was beautifully done. You also don't want to like splatter it like we're like the
Oh,
whole
yeah,
hippie thing,
totally.
but visually stunning the way you've mastered it. I love that
I
about your work.
thank you.
So, how did the location itself dictate the way you moved your camera and framed your actors? Did the landscape feel like a character or an adversary?
Both. So I have to be really smart when I write these projects. Even if I have a bigger scope, I always have to write within my means. This was the first film we campaigned, and I even had to rewrite the script to match what we gained in campaigning. But I wrote it around a location that I went and found about 4 hours away from LA. That was the cabin. Had another cabin. Had horse stables that we turned into the bedroom. Had 100 acres of land that we could dig into, and so I remember just rewriting and writing for this location, which I always recommend. Like, write for a location if you can. Um, and it was, I honestly, for me, I think it was a character because the location was so heavy and so ingrained from the beginning, from the concept, that if it wasn't for the location, and all the details and all the time we spent out there studying it and mapping it out, the film honestly wouldn't have worked out. So honestly, I mean, the heart of the film is that we got lucky with this place. We didn't get to leave. We just stayed there.
Oh,
Um, and also, like, it's also an adversary. I mean, it was a really difficult shoot. It was 5 days nonstop, 15-hour days. Um,
wow.
we worked endlessly. I mean, we dug the grave from scratch. I mean, everything was practical except for the lightning gag. Um, it was a beast of a
Yeah.
project. But I would say the location is the beating heart of the movie, truly, because it was, yeah, it's the biggest character of the film, and we wouldn't have been able to pull it off if we weren't so lucky.
I like that. Yeah, it was very beautiful. I was actually gonna ask you where you filmed it. So was it Joshua? You said
It was
Joshua?
no, actually, it was
Oh,
in Barstow,
Barstow, California. Yeah, yeah.
so a few hours from
I
LA.
yeah, it does have that deserty feel. So I
Yeah,
like that.
stunning.
Good scouting on that.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, that was a bitch of a bringing all that out there, and I mean, we dug the grave. It was hard as rock. We were building sets as we were shooting. So, like, we just would build, shoot, wrap it, build another one. And it never ended. Nobody like took a break.
Nobody
We had
slept.
so much fun. That's the most fun.
Nice. Yeah. So, out of any of the projects that you've done, what was the most difficult scene to get right?
Ooh, out of all my projects, well, I'll start with In the Valley. And there's two moments in the film that were like gonna make or break it. And because we didn't have the budget, we had one chance to get it right. There's the grave gag in the Valley where the grave actually opens up and he falls in, and we had to build that practically. And we brought these giant things that we had built out, like, out in LA, and then try to rig it. And we brought it out,
Yeah.
and we had to dig the hole, and that took like a half day to dig this like 2 foot hole that he could actually fall into. And then we had to cover it back up day one so that he could climb out of it with fog. So there was this huge risk that this wasn't going to look good because there was no way to truly test it. Um, and it worked, and I was so glad that worked. And then also, another thing in the Valley was I had never done a sex scene before. I've always been fascinated with exploitation and erotica, but I've never done a sex scene. And the pivotal part of the movie is the sex scene.
Yeah.
It's when the movie turns on its head, and it's also my proudest moment because it's gnarly and it's scary and it's hot and it's intense, and I was scared that if this didn't work, the movie wouldn't have made sense or wouldn't have worked, and that scene um, had to work, and I like to believe that it works really well. Um, and then I think another one was the first one I did in LA was called Grizzly Girls, this women avenge movie where they abduct this guy that um, took advantage of this woman, and they take it upon themselves to like abduct him, tie him to a wheelchair, and they put a hook through his penis, and they tie it to the car, and they rip it off.
No.
We had one chance to get like the wide where like the actual car pulls back and the fake penis comes off and this fountain of blood comes out. And we had one chance in the last 30 minutes of the shoot before we got fined another, $1,000.
Yeah.
And we were, racing against the clock and trying to be as calm as possible. And I was like, here we go. And it worked. As campy as it is, it fucking worked. But it was, I will never forget how terrified I was that 3 days of shooting led to this one moment that could have ruined the project.
Yeah. Just one wrong dick pull.
Building up to this moment. So if the geyser doesn't work, we can't shoot it, then it's like, can I VFX this? Do I even have money for this? I don't know what to do.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that. Especially being independent, limited budgets, all of that. You don't have a big studio conglomerates being like, here's, $1 million more. Yes. Chris is asking a wonderful question. If Adam was given an unlimited budget and no restrictions, what would be the dream project? Ooh, I like that question.
That's a really good question because I write a lot. I have a lot of features, but I always kind of restrict myself because I try not to get too excited about budgets. Honestly, I wrote this film for my friend who was one of our producers, who unfortunately is no longer with us, from In the Valley. And I wrote this kind of romance trauma motel. It's called All This Darkness. We're still trying to like opting it, but if I could have the money in the world, I would want to make this terrifying like motel horror movie in downtown LA where all these characters are kind of trapped looking for like something, like another reason to keep living. And the movie's just really big and avant-garde and colorful, and there's drag, and it's monstrous, but it's incredibly Lynch, but it has a lot of Japanese horror, kind of like the style of like House on Haunted Hill with the giant.
Oh yeah, like I love that.
Kind of like Japanese-esque, video game quality to it. So honestly, I would kind of call it's like a blend of Silent Hill meets like a Lynch, like Blue Velvet, art house, queer love film about just wanting this promise that there's something on the other side, and would you give up your life to take that promise to like feed this demon, is kind of like the general idea. And it's been a dream, a project of mine. And I think if I had an unlimited budget, I would do that. Or honestly, I would buy the Saw franchise and I would start it over.
Oh, interesting. I would love to see you make a Saw film.
I think if I could do it my way, I would redo the Saw franchise, knowing that like I love what they've done, sort of. But I think we could really push it. And I think one of the flaws with the industry right now is we don't, as great as horror is breaking the industry, I just feel like we're missing this like essence of being pushed and feeling uncomfortable that isn't just trauma based, which is rich coming from me. But I think having things like Saw come back and just being kind of pushed to the edge with what we are so good at storytelling now, I think people would eat it up, and I think people miss it.
Yeah. What I'm personally really tired of, Adam, is the remix, the reboots. Give us something new. They're redoing The Birds.
Honestly, the remix is a good. I haven't heard anybody say a remix, and I actually prefer that now that you've said that, because the thing about a remix is like it's like it can be such a skip. Like you love a song, but then you hear a remix, you're like skip, and I think that's such a great. I'm gonna start using that. I think there's so many remixes that are so mundane, and arguably, even if they're made for a new generation, they don't like it.
Mhm.
Nobody goes back. Nobody goes back to it. I think the first remix, even though I think it's like a prequel. I haven't seen it since it came out. Was like when they kind of remixed the thing, 10 years ago.
Mhm.
And I remember just being like, "What the? This is this is horrendous.
Yeah.
It's a dreadful film." And that was when I started realizing, that these remixes they're getting worse and worse.
Yeah.
And we need more
I
original ideas.
We need original stuff that can speak to this generation. Like this generation needs their own Saw. Generation needs their own
And
Exorcist.
it's proven.
You
I mean,
know?
like no matter if you love or hate, obsession. Like there's proof that independent, no name actors with no money, like people will show up. And it is about the marketing, and there's also so many great independent films that are in the festival circuits right now that I get lucky to watch when I go to these festivals that are equally as good as Obsession, that need to have a distribution platform that's beyond Shutter, because as great as Shutter is, you don't get a massive advertising platform. It's like a weekly sort of update. And
Yeah.
there's so many films that deserve the obsession, and I wish these big agencies would do something to promote these
Mhm.
independent features. That there's so many good obsession movies out there that nobody knows about.
Yeah. Or even just a weekly a spotlight, you
That's,
know?
let's bring something interesting back, because we don't have like old midnight. We don't get to grow up with midnight televisions or Tales from the Crypt anymore. Um, so why not have a weekly midnight series at theaters, or bring in, or a spotlight series where you do a whole weekend of just independent horror.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. Definitely. We need more of that. So, in your opinion, Adam, what is the most important element of a story that makes it truly like haunt the audience long after they leave the theater?
That's a hard question, because you write, especially on an independent level, it's you always want to write what's going to make everybody happy, but you often kind of get stuck in your own bubble of, like, it has to be so personal to you, and that can be a hard one to get, especially when you're kind of learning what audiences take and bite, and you kind of take in the reviews or the critiques as you kind of get them, and if that helps guide you or not. But I always stand by. I've been so committed to my style and my voice that I'm such an emotional person that, as long as I have a connection with people, I love people. I'm such a lover, and I put my heart and my soul, and, like, in writing scripts and making these films is my therapy. Even if it makes me look a little crazy. And
Mhm.
I always know, like, when I start crying when I write a script, and I can get a friend to read it and they start tearing up or something, then I'm like, okay, I'm doing something right. If I can just get a reaction like that feels genuine, I'm on the right track. So I always just have to trust my gut, and if I don't feel in my heart that I'm not emotionally invested in this, like, I'm just writing for a gag, but I don't feel the heartstring attachment or something that makes me feel giddy, then I know it's not the right thing to do. And I think the thing is like, you have to trust your gut, but, like, truly trust your gut, not the gut to make it for other people. Make it for yourself first, with the intention that if you trust that inner heart and that desire, people will like it.
I think so too. Yeah. If it doesn't resonate with you, audiences are going to pick up on that.
I think so.
Yeah, definitely. So, when you're working with your cast, how do you cultivate the specific tone or vibe needed for more intense or psychological moments in the script?
Yeah. In the Valley was a heavy one. There's
Yeah.
most of my films don't have a lot of dialogue. I cast off eyes, and I focus on the performance with eyes. And my lead, Georgie Goico, is one of my best friends and absolutely kills it as Josh. Um, I am a firm believer in rehearsing. I do a lot of rehearsals, and I do a lot of note taking, and I sit down and I do movie nights and do dinners, and I have a strong belief in being incredibly vulnerable, especially in the industry, and not having a lot of resources. That the only way this will work for us is if we're all, like, all the walls are down, and I can trust you and you can trust me, and that we have this comfort of understanding, so that when we're in it, there's no confusion. It's just like, remember, and it's like, yeah, I remember. that conversation we had. Like, so I think the biggest thing for directing my actors has always been rehearsing, and yeah, just be vulnerable, be real with me. I will be as real as I can with you, and I'll make it so raw and honest as to why we're doing this and why I want this to work. And I think when you create an environment that allows your team to speak up so freely without discomfort, even if it's just you one on one, I think goes an incredibly long way. I think a film like In the Valley, especially for Georgie, was so heavy because there was sex, there was ebbs and flows of being kind of in this like la la land of being like in this dystopian blur to then being like a scream queen to then doing like the sex and then coming back at the end and being incredibly emotional. And it's they have a roller coaster of emotions. And I think the strength for us as a team was that we spent so much time getting to know each other, talking about our vulnerabilities and our trauma and our history, and applying that to everything, and knowing that it always felt like when I looked at you and you looked at me that we were like, I know what's going on. Like, we don't have to say anything besides the note. Like, we're on the same page. And I think building that safety is huge. It's huge for me.
That's really good. Yeah, we definitely don't want a situation where when they did The Shining,
Yeah,
gosh,
exactly.
he mistreated Shelley Duvall so bad. We
Queen.
ne Yeah, we never want something like that for our actors.
And it's fun Hollywood storytelling, and as sad as it is, but like at the end of the day, it's like it's a luxury that we get to make these projects, even if there's no money, and it's a luxury you get to create, hopefully family out of it and friends. And I think
Yeah.
you have to always maintain that. Otherwise, there's no reason to be doing it.
Yeah. I think definitely maintaining your humanity is huge. So I think that's awesome of you to want to work with them in that capacity and have that human touch. You know,
Yeah.
I very much appreciate that, to see that in a creative space. If you could go back to the first day of shooting on this film with all the knowledge you have now,
Ooh.
what one piece of advice would you give yourself to help you with the project?
Oh, that's a good one. I think the biggest advice would be we we shot this film. I work in the industry as an AD, and my entire team works in the industry, and we made this during the strike, and we campaigned during the strike, and it was hard to raise money, and it was hard to push this project when we were all, I mean, struggling.
Yeah.
No money coming in for months, trying to find work. There's no work. Everyone's, and people are leaving, and it was a really scary time, and it felt very crazy to want to do this, almost selfish in a way, but I didn't want to let it go because it was what was keeping me alive and focused. But I think what I learned the most would be there was so much fear and anxiety of it falling apart, no matter how much prep was in it, how much pressure I put on myself, that it kind of took me out of being in the present. And I would tell myself what I've learned now, but just take more moments to enjoy how far it's gotten, know that you know how to get it done, and like always trust that feeling that like don't let the what's it called, the imposter syndrome ever make you feel like you feel that way because you love it, but don't ever lean into it. And I think having that mentality in prep would have been really nice, because it was such a hard time to want to make this movie, and I think I needed a little bit more time to just be okay in my moment and not be so scared.
Yeah, definitely. I think biggest thing to kind of overcome is the uncertainty and self-doubt. Oftentimes you question yourself, am I going in the right direction? Especially if you're not financially in a good spot, that will definitely lead
It
you a
was
lot of
there was
roadblocks.
in theory there was no reason why we shot this, but everyone wanted. On the flip side, everybody that came wanted to shoot something, and we honestly couldn't have probably shot it if it wasn't for the strike, because we all just wanted to do something. But yeah, I mean, but like that imposter syndrome is such a bitch.
It is definitely. Oh yeah, that's the worst, because it's like, am I good enough to be here? Why am I here? Like, yeah,
Totally. Like,
definitely.
and you're just like I get one chance for me. Like, I gotta like just make sure this works for everybody else. I hope this does good. Like, is it gonna work? I gotta trust it's gonna work. Like it's just the thoughts make you go a little manic.
A little manic. Could definitely understand that. So, every creator that I've seen does have a recurring theme or something they come back to to explore their fears.
Hmm.
What do you think In the Valley was exploring fear wise for you?
Besides the kind of like inherent trauma of being being watched, feeling alienated in that aspect. I think beyond the queer aspect of the film, I think the thing that's like the main theme in this that carries in all my projects that is just who I am is the fear of heartbreak. It's just so it's so funny to be like such a horror lover and love blood and gore and all this stuff, but like at my core, it's like the idea of suffering and heartbreak and trauma from that and what that does to our soul and to our brain. Like everything kind of comes back to that, and I think that's something that I always just like hold dearly. Is just that fear of losing love or not loving right, or how do I love right. So I think that's my constant comeback. And I think even within the Valley, even though at its core it's about historical violence in the community, the biggest topic around it is that it is a movie about love and then how it got stripped away. And I think that's my answer. That's it.
Yeah, definitely. So earlier you mentioned it was like 5 days of filming this film and long days. So how do you personally recover after spending all that time immersed in dark or intense a world like Project in the Valley? Like, what do you do?
Oh, I I I think it took a long time to recover from that one. So we had the crew up in a hotel about an hour away, because it was the closest thing to it, and then I had to sleep on an air mattress in the abandoned house with no AC, no running water, and I was just like I took the hit, of course, and I'd be up all night, and I'd be up at the crack of dawn to wander and scout by myself before people would show up. Um, sorry, what was like I was
Yeah, so how did you personally recover after filming?
I'm over here like getting like, oh God, remember all that. Um, I think we didn't like the last day of shooting. Me and the producers and a lot of my team, because it was like we did an overnight into a day scene. I think a lot of us didn't go to bed until like 30 hours later because we were driving back and taking things down, and then I went straight into editing like 3 days later, and I edited it for about 6 months. Um, I don't think I ever kind of came down from it, or like my recovery, because I almost put 10 times more effort into the edit. I think the recovery process, when I felt like I had to come down, or I felt like at peace and like a winner, was we did our family and friends screening, and we sold out, and it was just like there wasn't anybody big. It was just friends and family. This really awesome indie super divey bar of a theater in LA, and I think just seeing everybody so hyped up and excited, and I had never experienced that on a short, and having so many people, like 200 people rally behind us. I think my guards finally went down. I was like, oh, this feels right. Like this is who I made it for, and I felt no matter what was to come in the festival circuit, I was like, this is why I did this. This is the winning moment. So I think it took a year and a half to have it come down, but I finally got it when you got to the family screening.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds like so good. They finally got that moment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a good feeling. It was a high that needed to happen.
Yeah. So we often discuss on the show what makes a scene scary.
Mm.
What do you think is the most uncomfortable emotion to evoke in an audience? And how did you attempt to push that boundary in this film?
I think to answer it, same answer for both questions. I think what makes people the most uncomfortable, and I also think it's what is the scariest part of the film, because my films are never jump scare heavy. It's all kind of like psychological dread, etherealness. I would say sex. I think sex always makes people uneasy, whether it be in like a scene that is just sex to have sex, or if it's just to push the narrative. I think it always makes people freeze up. Um, and I think I think that's just the truth. And I think within the Valley, you know, that scene was so, the sex scene with the storm and the aliens coming in, like the bed, and they're out in the desert. Like I think that was arguably the scariest moment in the film because everything flips on its head, and it's a scene that you don't see coming, and you are kind of forced to witness something so steamy but also so intense. And I think pushing that as best as we could without making it, you know, hysterical, is kind of why the movie works and why it does have like this underlying horror fear, because from that moment on it just goes into straight, you know, Lovecraftian chaos. And I also think, yeah, I would say sex. I think sex is the thing that makes everybody the most scared, the most. I mean, that's also why It Follows is so damn good.
Yeah, definitely. Especially the buildup that you did is so good. He was just so lost and so confused. If you know, for any of our viewers that watch it, guys. It's good. It just that buildup of like feeling scared for the protagonist, because you're like, well, if he's lost and now he's in this uncomfortable situation, and then all of a sudden you mix sex and then the ethereal stuff happening, and you're like, oh no, you already felt so sorry for him, and now you feel even more sorry for him, not because of the sex act, but because of the fact that is this cosmic horror happening to him, and you're like, damn.
And it happened, and it goes quick. Like you're just suddenly like, wait, what's going on? He's getting thrusted. He's getting probed. What? Like,
yeah, it you already felt sorry for him, and now you feel even more sorry, and it did kind of evoke that emotion and that boundary of like, well, you thought he was safe. Let me push that envelope and make him even more unsafe.
And honestly, like when we edited it and put the sex scene together, I remember showing the team because everybody was scared for it, and they were just like, "I'm like, right, bitches, it works. It worked. We did it. Like we made it. The shift worked."
Yeah, it really did. I'm not gonna lie. Going into it, at first I was like, "Oh, sex." I was like, "Cool. Are we sure this is not a porn exploitation film?" You know,
it sets up like a sexploitation to a certain degree because it has the aura of it.
Yeah, but then you go into that cosmic horror type thing. You're like, oh, now we know what's happening, but that's even worse for him.
It's even worse for him because essentially, like, the idea was like the sexist matters. It's about gay panic and like what that does post sex, but it's also like probing, so like probing information into him of like what's coming, memories, and I was like, no, it's gonna work. But yeah, I mean, I kept it pretty tame for how graphic it could have looked, and I'm pretty proud of how steamy it turned out without having to like push it that far.
Yeah, no, you did wonderful. And that scene does make you super uncomfortable because he's already so vulnerable. He doesn't know who he is or where his home is or nothing. And you put him
having a good time and it's pleasure, and then but all this other stuff is happening. You're like, oh, this is a lot. This is a lot.
It's a lot, and it definitely puts your audience in that perspective. And
it's always been the best. Whenever we go to a screening, that's always the part in the moment that or like in the audience that I love to hear. You just hear it because it goes to silence right after, like it just harsh silence in the desert of him naked alone, and like that pause. Every festival we go to, you always hear like 1 to 5 people go, "What the," or like, "Oh," or "Huh." Like just hearing everybody have an intense reaction to the sex scene is like the best feeling.
Yeah, I definitely had a what the fuck moment during that. I was like, what the good. No. Not in a bad way, but in a
that's the good. You need to have that reaction.
Yeah, no, you did wonderful at conveying and evoking that what the fuck moment. So good job. Good job. So if you were to curate a double feature where In the Valley is a second film, what is the first film you would choose to set up the right tone for the audience?
You know what?
Double feature.
Easy. The film that, besides the music, you know, there was one film that inspired the hell out of it that I saw years ago, and I told my team to watch it. I always want people to watch it, and it hasn't gotten its kudos yet. I think it's okay in the queer world. I think people have seen enough of it, but it's called Knife and Heart, and it's modern French horror slasher art house like sort of film about this gay porn house in the 70s in France, and all the actors are getting murdered by this killer, and it takes I forget her name, but Johnny Depp's like ex-wife, the French actress. She's the lead in it, and it's up to her to kind of like put the pieces together. And it's incredibly French and incredibly ethereal and a little ridiculous, but the music is so, it's M83, and like that soundtrack and the score behind it was just so reminiscent about it. We're in the Valley when, so it would be Knife Plus Heart and In the Valley. It would be the French movie that's in the 70s about slasher, to then like what that movie would look like if you turned it into a desert gay panic film.
Oh, I like that. That's a really good take on that and a really good vision. Wow, you are definitely a top tier creative there.
Hey. And I recommend it. Please watch that film. It is like, it deserves like all the credit.
Nice. I'll have to check it out. What was the name of it again?
Knife and Heart.
Knife and Heart. Ah, that's on the to-do list.
Yeah, like
lots of great films. Yeah. What were you gonna say? Sorry.
Like bring the movie to the top. Like it's on the top of your to-do list.
Okay, gotcha. So, as a director working in the genre, do you feel that films are a way for us to face things we're actually terrified of in real life, or are they a way for us to escape them? What do you think?
Oh, both. I mean, this movie was this was a fear of mine that I needed to express, that I didn't expect to express, and it was such a healing. Yes, Vanessa Parody. Thank you, Chris. I think for creatives, I would hope that the intention is to heal, even if it's just something silly and fun or just a gag. For me, this movie was something that I needed to do to heal. And on the flip side, I think the most important thing about the genre is that it needs to be a fucking escape. And I think that's why the genre is so powerful and so good, is whether you're at the basics of Freddy and, obsession, you only know the forefront of horror. But then, if you really get into it and you realize that it's the biggest genre in existence and everything and anything exists in it, I think it is arguably the most healing genre, because you can find something, whether it be funny, sad, traumatic, jokey, violent. I think it is an escape. I think horror is the best escape of a genre, and I'm not biased for that.
Nice. I like that. I like that. As we start closing out the show, what is one story of horror concept you haven't tackled yet that kind of keeps you up at night?
Ooh, God, I have so many ideas. What's fun? I've never done, to my own fear. I would love and kill to do like a really strange art house, Giallo inspired, of course. But I would love to attempt a slasher, but I find them so intimidating because it's not what I write or what I do. And I don't know if there'd be, a topic behind it, but I just think I'd have so much fun attacking a slasher. But it's as simple as maybe a slasher is, it feels so otherworldly to me, and it almost feels so difficult to write or think like that, because I don't think I enjoy them for what they are, and that I can't write a camp story like that. So I think I would want to try to use my voice and my style to make an interesting slasher movie, and be like, this is me having fun. It's not for healing or anything like that. It's just me to have a fucking blast, and I want people to have a blast and like lose their mind and want to watch this movie over and over, because I want to make the coolest slasher ever made. But I don't know what that looks like. But I think that is my biggest obstacle to figure out, as silly as that sounds.
No, not silly at all. What project or goal is next on your horizon, Adam, and after your current projects?
Me and my team at Skull Globe have a couple of things. We're going to launch this year our episodic 1-minute series on our Instagram, called like our 1-minute micro horror series, which will be kind of like Tales from the Crypt influenced, and we're bringing in different directors and creatives to put out 1-minute horror, because we all just want to create, and I want to just put stuff out there that me and my friends and new people can just say we did it, and always get that itch out of our system. And then we're about to shoot the campaign for it, but my next big project I've been working on for years, and it's my biggest short film that's also like a proof of concept for, I would hope would be my first feature. It's called The Last Safe Space, and we just kind of we started working on the Sofia Coppola grant just to see like what happened. But so if you want to read the script of the deck, it's up there. But in the next couple months, we're going to launch the campaign for that, and we have a couple really cool surprise cast members that have some names, some cool sound, and I'm excited to launch that. And I hope this is the project that solidifies my voice, and people will remember me as a director. I hope it kind of launches me into the next phase. But it's also the most vulnerable script I've ever written, and the most pulled back. And yeah, I'm excited to campaign that. So you'll be on the lookout for that.
Ooh, Chris is super excited. Micro horror. What an interesting concept. Sounds cool. Yeah, I agree.
Hell yeah.
Cannot wait.
More of it.
Yeah, cannot wait for that. Thank you, Chris. So my final question that I have for you, if you could give one piece of advice to aspiring independent horror filmmakers, what would that be?
Oh my God, so easy. I tell my friends this, that like hesitate. Just fucking make a project. Like just make it. Please God. Like if you have an idea, don't think big. Think if you can write within a restraint or within your budget, it works for you and in like your best interest, but you just make something. Don't think you can't do it. I have too many people around me that hesitate because they're scared of the imposter syndrome and the hesitation to want to be out there and find a team. But there's too many of us that want to make something, and you don't know what it will do for you, and if it's healing or if it's an escape for somebody else. But I think the best thing you can do is, as long as you are good and you take care of your team and you're a good person and you make sure that's the priority, just fucking make something. Do not say you can't do it. Otherwise, like, then don't do it. Like, just grab that camera, grab that phone, and shoot it. And you can color correct it, whatever you want. Like, you are that talented.
Nice, yeah. Definitely. Don't give up on your dreams. Have a concept and go with it.
Just do it. And if it fails, I went to film school and I screwed it up. Like I shot some projects that I can't put out because I was learning, you have to do it. You have to learn it.
Aw. Great interview. Nice to meet you, Adam. Best of luck with your upcoming projects.
I appreciate it. Thank you for being so interactive.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Thank you so much for that interaction. It was truly appreciated. Well, Adam, it's been great. Thank you so much for your valuable time and allowing me to speak with you on In the Valley and your other stuff that you're doing. I do appreciate you.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much. And the channel's great. And I thank you for giving me a platform and to speak about queer horror and, representing it. And thank you for watching the film, because every view does matter, and it does change the emotion like that. It makes all the hard work feel more validated. So thanks.
Yeah, no, thank you. Keep making awesome stuff. More cosmic horror in the future. I do love some Cthulhu action. So thank you so much, Adam.
Of course. Thank you, Lena.
All right. Have a great Sunday, everybody. See you guys on Thursday. We will be reviewing Guillermo del Toro's Mimic.
Underrated.
Very underrated horror film. And we are so happy to be able to review that for everybody on Thursday. See you guys then. Bye-bye.
Peace.
Hello, boils and ghouls. It's your old pal, John Kusier, the voice of the Crypt Keeper. And I want to thank you for listening.